registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.
Good evening. I'm Olamide Adeyemi. This is the news update. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party in the 2023 elections, Atiku Abubakar, has announced that Fayo Kowa has his running mate. Atiku made the announcement at a meeting attended by PDP executives at the party's headquarters in Abuja. PDP National Chairman Yocha Ayu said a 17-member committee had been set up by the party to pick a running mate and that the committee had submitted 3 names to Atiku to choose from. The final decision, however, Ayu said was Atiku's.
Vice President present to you this INEC form, which you will complete and return to us today.
Now, the leadership of the National Assembly has lamented the high rate of 7 lawmakers not returning in the Night Assembly. They blame this development for these lawmakers' inability to retain their legislative set on the use of indirect mode of primary elections and the just concluded primaries across the country. Emmanuel Ajan accomplished the reports.
Leadership of both chambers of the National Assembly lamented the imperfections in Nigeria's democratic process, especially at the just concluded primaries across the country. They identified the indirect primary, especially as it relates to the election of delegates, as a major impediment to genuine quest for democracy in the country. The Speaker, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and the former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu made these observations at a commemorative lecture, Nigeria's Democratic Experience, Reflections on Leadership Recruitment and Democratic Institution Building. Gbajabiamila insisted that there is no substitute to direct primary in any democracy, pointing out the arrangement that allows few individuals to decide for the people is inimical to Nigeria's democracy.
The system has its practice. Now, let me make it clear. There's nothing wrong with indirect primaries. Absolutely nothing wrong. There's some countries that practice that. But you see, all politics is local. It is actually how those delegates are produced that is a problem. And for as long as we are in a situation where a group of men, and perhaps maybe sometimes women, will sit on a kitchen table and determine who is a delegate and who is not a delegate, then we don't have a democracy.
Former Deputy President of the Senate, Ike Ekweremadu, shared similar views with the Speaker. He said the National Assembly must find a way to restrict political parties to direct primary for Nigeria's democracy to flourish.
Today, not only does money play a greater role in the emergence of candidates, turning delegates to overnight millionaires, because delegates are fewer. The non-partition of certain delegates was fate playing into the hands of the governors, who colluded with greedy party leaders to manipulate the margins of 3-man ad hoc or 5-man delegates, as the case may be, and went ahead to weaponize them fully for their selfish political interests. At the end of the day, democracy and the people are at the receiving ends. And as the masses can only elect candidates through knock at the various political parties.
Earlier, Director General NILDS noted that despite making significant progress in 5 multi-party elections in 22 years, and with improved electoral and legislative framework, the country's democracy continues to suffer in so many ways. He listed some of the impediments to democracy in the country as inducement of delegates, vote buying, and the influence of money bags, as well as high cost of nomination fees by political parties.
It is important at this juncture, therefore, to commend President Muhammad Buhari for his exemplary leadership and support for due process and transparency at the just concluded APC presidential primary election. In his Democracy Day speech, he further reiterated his commitment to free, fair, and transparent elections and an undertaking to hand over to the next president come May 2023.
The event was organized by the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies in commemoration of the
Nigerian Association of Women Journalists has called for an end to all forms of harmful practices that affect the progress and development of Nigerian children. The call is contained in a statement by the association's National Secretary, Helen Udofa in Ibadan. Even as Nigeria joins the global community to mark the 2022 International Day of the African Child, Udofa stated that NAWOJ was particularly worried about harmful practices against Nigerian children happening in different parts of the country. Meanwhile, 35 teenagers used as sex slaves at a hotel in Umpo in Anambra State, southeast Nigeria. According to the spokesman of Anambra Police Command, Tochukwu Ikenga, the teenagers aged between 14 and 17 years were made to engage in acts such as prostitution and forced to have babies. He added that 4 of the girls are pregnant. Benue State Police Command says 4 suspects in connection with the attack at Igama village in Okpoko local government area of the state have been nabbed. The suspected headers had invaded the Igama community in the early hours of Sunday and killed 15 people and burned down houses in the community. The attackers, who were said to be trapped in the bush, had engaged the police in a gunduel that led to the arrest. The police, however, urged members of the Igama community to remain calm and provide useful information to the police for necessary action. Meanwhile, Nigerians expressed mixed feelings as they look forward to the candidate who would become the country's president in 2023. That's on Street Views.
We should vote wisely so that things will be better, because masses are suffering now. In our own perspective, we see future, but in the hands of our leader, they can manipulate it.
I foresee future, because if we can vote the right person, I think Nigeria will be great. We have the ruling party, and it will be a difficult to be for junior party to overcome the ruling party. It will be very difficult. For my own opinion, I think I prefer Peter Obi.
The government use poverty to control the masses, because when there is poverty, somebody that don't have 1 square meal to eat in a day, and a politician comes and give him money to vote for him, the followers don't have any other option than to vote for him. Nigeria has no future. We have no future for the instance that those that we are clamoring to become our leader, our president of today, are all of the same feathers.
Well, what I know is that I must vote. Whether they count it or not, whether anything they like, they do, but I will believe that God Almighty that we are serving will give us a good leader in Nigeria. That is my belief.
If they can follow the word, or if you can consider the people that they are following them, if they can pity them, but because most of what they are saying, they are different people. But if they can change,
with what they are saying, and they can follow what they are saying, we have a future bright in Nigeria. Now, I don't prefer anybody, but only God can choose for Nigeria, so that it's going to deliver us in 2003.
Nigeria is already dead, but I don't know about our good leader that is coming, whether good or bad. They'll be saying things, all those promises about us every day, and the country is getting more worse. But we pray, and the future will take care of itself if anyone believes. Oh, they are no good, but we will still give them a chance because there's no youth to step up for the future. For me now, it's Atiku. Because it's chop by chop. Because he's a good man, even though he's a Muslim, he still cares for the Christian.
Many youth today, they chase the money, they believe in present, they will never think of the future. Say Tinubu, because I believe he must have done a lot for the country in the past, but we can't judge the past with the present. But we can still give our try and see what he's going to do for the next election.
And in other parts of Africa, Ghanaian opposition leader and former presidential candidate Kizza Besigye has been jailed and charged with inciting violence for the second time in a month. A longtime critic of President Yoweri Museveni has recently led several protests against the rising cost of living in Uganda, as well as the entire African continent as a result of the war in Ukraine. His lawyer, Elias Kugwago, said that the four-time presidential candidate was arrested again on charges of inciting violence a week after his release. Outside Africa, the United States has announced a fresh infusion of $1 billion in weapons for Ukraine that includes anti-ship rocket systems, artillery rocket, artillery, and ammunition. U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that the latest weapons packages for Ukraine include 18 artillery, 36,000 rounds of ammunition for them to happen coastal defense system, artillery rockets, secure radios, thousands of night vision devices, and funding for training. The 8 packages, which come as Austin is meeting with allies in Brussels, were split into 2 categories, which are a transfer of excess defense articles from the United States, stock and other weapons being funded by the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative, a separate congressionally authorized program.
States will provide an additional $1 billion security assistance package for Ukraine. And that includes our 12th drawdown from DoD inventory since August of 2021. And it includes guided MLRS munitions, 18 more M777 howitzers, and the tactical vehicles to tow them, and 36,000 rounds of 155 millimeter ammunition.
The Russians are just doing massed fires without necessarily achieving military effect, shall we say. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, are using much better artillery techniques, and they're having pretty good effect on the Russians. The Russians have lost probably somewhere in the tune of 20 to 30% of their armored force. That's significant. That's huge. So the Ukrainians are fighting a very effective fight tactically with both fires and maneuver.
So I think we have to put things in perspective. You can never, when you're in the fight, you can never get enough, and you can never get it quick enough. So, but having said all that, we're going to work hard to make sure we're doing everything humanly possible. We're going to continue to move heaven and earth to get them.
And in business, U.S. stock indexes opened sharply lower, with growth shares taking the biggest hit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 1.18% at the open to 30,305.74. The S&P 500 opened lower by 1.63 at 3,728.18, while the Nasdaq Composite dropped 2.64% to 10,806.02 at the opening bell. Moving on to entertainment news, Kevin Spacey has denied allegations of sex offenses. The Oscar-winning actor made his first appearance at a British court to face charges dating back almost 20 years. Spaces accused of 5 offences in Britain, 4 counts of sexual assault by touching, and a more serious charge of causing a person to engage in penetrative sexual activity without consent. Defense lawyer Patrick Gibbs said the actor had answered all the allegations in questioning 3 years ago in the United States and cooperated fully with the investigation. If found guilty of sexual assault, he will face a 6-month prison sentence or an unlimited fine, while the other offense carries a maximum punishment of life imprisonment. He is to make appearance at London's Southwark Crown Court on July 14. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and do subscribe to our YouTube channel, Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. I'm Olamide Adeyemi, and thanks for watching.
There is no voting on social media. To vote, you would require a permanent voter's card. To get your PVC, visit cvr.inecnigeria.org. Create your account with a valid email address and start the registration process. An activation link will be sent to you. Click on the link and activate your account. Fill out the form, pick and submit a convenient date and time for your biometrics. Print the application slip, which should have your QR code. On the appointed date, go to the nearest INEC office for your biometric capturing. Thereafter, you will get a registration slip to pick your permanent voter's card when ready. Get your PVC today. This message is from Plus TV Africa.